Welcome back to Deep Dive, the podcast series about building financial independence according to the Golden Path strategy. Today, we're going to address the final non-negotiable step, the one that secures the entire foundation you've worked so hard to build.
That's right. This is episode 9, and it's a big one. It really marks the completion of let's call it the defensive portion of our plan. If you've been on this journey with us, you know we've done the internal shift of stage 1, and now we are finalizing stage 2, building financial resilience.
Yeah, we've been deep in the engine room, haven't we? Just doing that hard work that defines stability. We stabilized cash flow. We built that crucial emergency fund back in step 7, aggressively wiped out bad debt in step 8, and just last time we automated our financial decisions. We built something really solid.
But here's the question. If we've built this magnificent, productive house, what good is it if the roof is made of straw or the foundation is, unsealed? The asset owner identity, it recognizes that true freedom has to be protected freedom.
Exactly. So we're talking about the final critical piece of that defensive layer. Step 10, implementing comprehensive financial risk management and protection.
And our mission today it's just foundational. It's to establish that genuine financial freedom must be protected. We really need to internalize that this isn't some tedious one-time chore you check off a list. It's not. It is a continuous core principle. It's woven right into the fabric of the asset owner's operating system.
Okay, let's unpack that. I want to start with a scenario that I think every listener can relate to, especially if you started to see some real momentum. Think about it. The last 3, maybe 5 years of discipline. You've tracked your money, you've mastered delayed gratification, you're investing consistently, and that net worth chart is finally climbing that steady upward line. It's an incredible feeling of control.
It is, and that feeling of momentum can be intoxicating. It can lead to a kind of financial hubris. So here's the counter scenario. One single catastrophic event, a realized risk, can instantly erase all those years of work, sometimes literally overnight.
And that's the ultimate fear, isn't it? We tend to focus so much on the offense, the investing, the growth. We sort of assume our positive momentum will just magically shield us from disaster.
And that is the precise structural weakness the sources point to. The collapse, when it happens, isn't because of a flaw in your growth strategy. Your investment thesis could be brilliant, but the problem is a catastrophic lack of protection for what you've already built. We're talking about, a major illness that drains your capital, a career-ending injury that just stops your cash flow dead, or a big lawsuit that comes after your assets.
Right. And this is where that idea of independence really comes into focus. Financial independence in the Golden Path is about growth and preservation. It's both. You can be the best investor in the world, generating amazing returns, but if your whole structure is vulnerable to a single point of failure, you're not independent. You're just exposed.
The asset owner has to prioritize protecting the existing structure. It is the prerequisite for moving forward. If you try to build stage 3 on an unprotected stage 2 foundation, well, the whole thing can be demolished in an instant.
But protecting ourselves feels, boring. Or worse, it feels expensive. And that leads to that common psychological trap, the one that sabotages so many otherwise disciplined people. It's that it won't happen to me mindset, or, just constantly putting off dealing with the messy stuff.
Yeah.
Like setting up a legal structure or sifting through insurance policies.
Well, we prefer immediate positive feedback, right? Spending money on an insurance premium feels like a cost with zero return. It runs totally counter to the growth mindset. So most people just ignore risk until the damage is done. They only start dealing with the paperwork after the catastrophe hits.
So what's the structural danger of putting it off like that?
It's just a denial of reality. The thing is, risk is not a question of if, it's a question of when. One unexpected major event can destroy your cash flow, wipe out your assets, and just completely eradicate your peace of mind. Without this protective layer, everything we just built in stage 2, the emergency fund, the cleared debt, it's all immediately vulnerable. The whole system is exposed.
So we have to reframe it. This isn't just about paperwork or buying a basic policy. It's a strategic act.
Precisely. That is the guiding principle. Managing risk is not a sign of fear. It's a sign of responsibility. It's high-level system design. It's a core component of that asset owner mindset. It reflects just a mature understanding of how the world actually works.
It's interesting how the sources really highlight the unique nature of this step. Eliminating bad debt, that's a phase you complete. You're done. Building an emergency fund is a target you hit, and then you maintain it.
Right. But risk management is not a phase you complete. And this is the key insight for you, the listener. It's a continuous principle. It has to be applied to all your existing assets all the time and, crucially, at every new stage of the golden path. The second you acquire your first yielding asset in stage 3, what's the first task? Applying the risk management system to it.
So the asset owner has to see it as like a security system that's always running, one that needs periodic checkups and calibration, a bit like our automated investments from step 9.
Absolutely. And like all the steps in this strategy, risk management is a learnable, applicable subject. It's not magic. Protecting the path you're on is just a fundamental prerequisite for being able to keep moving forward. You can't run a successful factory if you skip the daily safety checks. It's the same idea.
Okay, let's get specific. What exactly is the asset owner actively defending against? What are the targets of this protection system?
Well, the goal isn't to prevent every small inconvenience. That's what the emergency fund is for. The goal here is managing risk against catastrophic economic events. We're aiming to minimize the damage when a major existential threat actually happens.
The sources outline 4 critical categories of catastrophe we need to be protected from. Let's dive into those details.
Okay, the first, and you could argue it's the most important, is protection against personal catastrophes. This is about defending your human capital, your ability to work and earn. It covers, unexpected illness, long-term disability, and ultimately death. If you can no longer operate your income engine, the whole system for your family must not collapse with it.
So that means something like disability insurance isn't optional. It's paramount. It protects the biggest asset most of us have, our future income. What's the second area?
Second is property and assets.
Yeah.
As you move into stage 3 and you start acquiring yielding assets, real estate, a business, expensive equipment, whatever it is, those things become targets. Protection here goes way beyond basic homeowners insurance. You have to protect the full replacement value of those holdings. You can't get stuck with a policy that only covers the depreciated value.
So if I buy a rental property, I need a policy that covers the cost to rebuild it from the ground up, not just what it might sell for today.
Precisely. The third category is a massive one, legal and liability protection. As you accumulate wealth, you become what's sometimes called an attractive nuisance. You're just a bigger target for lawsuits, for claims, for legal action.
That sounds aggressive.
It's reality. This kind of protection involves things like a comprehensive umbrella insurance policy, which is like a huge blanket of coverage over your standard policies. And it involves strategic legal structures like LLCs to firewall different assets from each other. You're defending the net worth you spent years building.
And finally, the fourth shield is cash flow.
Yes. This is protection against something like business interruption, which is vital if you own a company, or against sudden, huge expenses that are catastrophic but not covered by other policies. The goal of this shield is to make sure that even during a year of major disruption, your monthly system doesn't fail. It can keep paying its bills without you having to liquidate assets.
And what's so crucial here, like we said earlier, is that these 4 protections apply to your existing assets and your future acquisitions. The system has to be designed to be scalable, to accommodate the things we haven't even bought yet.
The second you close on that first rental property, the protective framework has to snap immediately into place. No exceptions.
Okay, so we've established what we need to protect. Now, the big question is how. For a listener, this can sound like a massive, paralyzing project.
It doesn't have to be. Effective financial protection. It relies on a balance of 3 components. It's a unified 3-part defense. It's not just about buying a bunch of policies.
Let's break those components down. What's in that shield?
First is awareness and caution. This is your asset owner mindset in action. It means you're conscious of potential threats, but you don't let that awareness lead to fear or paralysis. It means you conduct, say, an annual risk audit.
Can you give me a concrete example of awareness in practice?
Sure. Awareness means knowing where your key documents are. It means reviewing the beneficiary designations on your retirement accounts every single year. Those forms override your will. If they're outdated, the consequences can be catastrophic, and they're so easily avoided.
That is a great actionable nugget. What's the second component?
Second, asset and investment diversification. This is the internal resilience we build into the system. By spreading your investments around different asset classes, geographies, currencies, you are passively managing risk. You're making it so no single sector can wipe you out. It's the ultimate passive protection, really.
And third, the active part, appropriate insurance.
Correct. This is where you actively transfer that catastrophic risk to someone else. But the key word is appropriate. The insurance has to be tailored to your net worth, your life stage, the specific assets you hold. Someone in stage 2 needs robust disability and umbrella policies. They don't necessarily need the complex life insurance structures that a billionaire would.
And that tailoring suggests that protection isn't static, right? It has to evolve as your balance sheet evolves.
It must. Protection has to be adjusted over time. As your net worth grows, your liability limits must grow. Conversely, as you get closer to your final goal, some coverages might become less critical.
Which brings us to a key concept from the sources, the mandate for periodic optimization. Why is constantly tweaking your coverage so important?
Optimization is essential to minimize unnecessary costs, to make sure you're not bleeding capital on defense that isn't effective. You have to regularly review your coverage to avoid overinsurance paying for protection you don't need, or for an expensive policy with a low deductible that you should really be covering with your emergency fund.
I can hear the objection already. If I'm saving money, why would I raise the deductible on my home insurance? Isn't that riskier?
That is a fantastic question. It gets right to the core of optimization. The asset owner already has a robust emergency fund from step 7. So you don't need your insurance company to cover the first $500 of damage. You can raise your deductible to, say, $5,000. That might significantly reduce your annual premium, and that freed up cash can then be invested. Meanwhile, the emergency fund can easily absorb that $5,000 risk if it happens.
So you're using the resilience from one part of stage 2, the emergency fund, to reduce the cost of another part of stage 2, the insurance. That is real system thinking.
It is. And conversely, optimization also ensures that those crucial catastrophic areas like legal liability are never exposed. It's a continuous balancing act. Cost versus coverage. You minimize the cash outflow while guaranteeing protection against the big, scary threats.
So let's bring us back to identity. We're talking about spending money on defense, which doesn't feel like growth. How do we stop seeing this as just wasted money?
By framing it correctly. Protecting what you have built is a sign of wisdom, not fear. Fear leads to hoarding cash under the mattress. Wisdom leads to strategic defense. The threats are always out there, whether you acknowledge them or not. Preparedness is what separates a temporary stumble, a lost job, a fender bender, from an economic collapse that sets you back a decade.
That makes perfect sense. The wise asset owner doesn't just hope risks won't materialize. They structure their finances so that when they inevitably do, the system just absorbs the shock and keeps going.
Exactly. The protection you put in place now is what guarantees your ability to pursue future growth in stage 3. You can take calculated offensive risks in your business or your investments because your defense is impenetrable. Protection ultimately secures freedom.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've established that true financial freedom only exists when your cash flow and your assets are actively protected. Risk management is the final step in securing stage 2 resilience.
And having completed this entire defensive layer consciousness in stage 1 and resilience in stage 2, the asset owner is now structurally ready and strategically entitled to move into stage 3. That's growth and economic freedom. That is where we finally get to focus on acquiring that first yielding asset, multiplying income, and achieving full independence.
That is exciting, and we will be diving deep into stage 3 next time. But before we go, since this is a system that needs constant attention, what's the immediate step for today?
Here's your final thought and your task for the week. It's a small task with massive strategic weight. Check one significant, high-cost, low-probability risk in your life. Maybe it's checking the liability limits on your auto insurance. Maybe it's finally getting a quote for term life insurance. Or just reviewing your emergency fund to see if you can raise a deductible somewhere.
Take one specific action to reduce or optimize that one protection.
That small defensive step is actually a huge step toward preserving the freedom you're working so hard to build. It is the ultimate expression of the asset owner identity securing the future today.
We invite you to continue the journey with us as we finally transition into stage 3, growth and economic freedom, in our next deep dive.